Hey guys, welcome back. Actually, hold up. Let me check something. Hold up. Gotta check screen. Entire window. Yes. All right. Awesome. Hey guys, welcome back to the American Experience. We have kind of some video review today. It's going to be by this guy called Libertas. He has a cool YouTube channel. Recommend you go check him out. He's only had 2 videos out so far, but I wanted his second video, which is his critique of another YouTuber I watched, JimmyTalks, talking about libertarianism, and I just found it very interesting. Yeah, all of that. So why can't yeah, so that's what we're gonna do. Yeah, let's get to it.
Libertarianism is what I would call the most misunderstood mainstream political ideology. And that is made no more clear than in this video by JimmyTalks called My Critique of Libertarianism. So get ready as we dive into this textbook definition of I talked to a leftist 8 years ago who claimed to be a libertarian.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to JimmyTalks.
Yeah, I'll be fair to Jimmy here, and I'll also be fair to Libertas in this episode. I've read libertarian literature. I know. Not just like the basic stuff. Like I've actually read theory, philosophical theory. I've read Hoppe. So I do know a decent chunk of libertarian theory. I read the Mises Institute and stuff. I'll be fair to Jimmy here. Obviously, a lot of us, if you don't put a lot of study into libertarianism and you're just talking about libertarianism at its face, which is often these weird constitutional hippie weed smokers, you're gonna fall into the trap of libertarians are like leftists or something. If you're a real libertarian, on the other hand, you're gonna fall into the trap of no one understands me, and you're gonna keep on saying that. But the fact is that's because you don't really get people to understand what libertarianism is. Unfortunately speaking, real libertarians don't get other people to understand what real libertarianism is. So as a consequence, people are left thinking that this left-wing kind of thing is libertarianism, which it's not. But anyways, let's just get straight to it and watch it. I think both sides made a good point. I already watched this video. I think both sides made some decent points. Both sides made some bad points. Obviously, it's online, internet, right-wing culture, so there's a bit of making fun of each other. But whatever, it's cool.
So let's talk about libertarianism a little bit. On the surface, it sounds appealing, everything that they say, because they're talking about freedom and the Constitution, and taxation is theft. And
we are 10 seconds into the video and he's already getting things wrong. No, libertarians are not constitutionalists. It is not the Constitution that grants you your rights.
That is true. So libertarianism is a political ideology, and obviously is fundamentally not just a political but also a philosophical ideology. So it is based off of the idea of natural rights, and of course they do not believe that the Constitution itself gives you those natural rights. They believe those natural rights are given to you because they're natural. Either God gave them to you or they're just inherent in nature, and that's why we need them. Society functions best when we respect natural rights. I think the disagreement here is that the misconception here is that many well-known libertarians, Thomas Massey, Ron Paul, Rand Paul, they are all also constitutionalists. So it makes it appear like most libertarians are constitutionalists. And by the way, when you encounter a libertarian, 9 times out of 10, unless if they're an anarcho-capitalist, they're going to be constitutionalists. And even if they are an ANCAP, in the moment, they might be constitutionalists for the sake of pragmatism. So I'm going to go with, I think that's not fair to say they're not, I think it's fair for Jimmy to make that point, because in most cases they are.
It is just how the world is. I mean, we see every single day that the Constitution isn't actually doing anything to enforce these rights. Gun rights are being taken away all across the country, especially in Virginia right now. So how is the Constitution really helping with that?
And everybody hates the IRS. Every time taxes, that kind of time in the season comes around, I fucking hate it. And I think everybody can also agree that the federal government is very bloated and it's just strangling this country. But when you actually look at libertarianism, we don't find allies as right-wingers. it's kind of just as destructive to the American nation and the Christian faith and our European heritage as anything coming out of the progressive left. In fact, in many ways, libertarians are just the useful idiots for the liberal regime. They are wolves in sheep's clothing who open the gates for the very tyranny that they claim to oppose, and I will tell you why. And before I even start, there's like 10% of libertarians that I like.
Yes, the people who want to completely disband the Fed and most centralized governments, in fact, all centralized governments, are somehow useful idiots for the leftists, guys. It makes total sense. You know, the people who are probably the most for gun rights, the most for just rights in general, are really the ones who are the useful idiots for the leftists, because they don't care if gay people get married. Like what is your point here? In his tone, it feels like he's just really trying to grasp at straws. I honestly don't know how he stretched this video out to 22 minutes and 6 seconds, but he did somehow, and we're gonna watch all of it, so just stick around.
The other 90%.
I will say, as someone who's watched Jimmy a lot, sometimes he is a bit ranty and kind of grabs at straws a bit. A big reason for that, I'd argue, is because Jimmy is just kind of doing on the fly lives, on the fly videos while he's gaming. So I don't know, and I don't know Jimmy personally, so I don't know the level to which he puts in the research for some of these videos. I know for some videos he puts in quite a bit, but I also know for some it's not a ton. So based off of what I've seen in this video, I'm guessing not a lot, but I could be wrong. Anyways, let's keep on going. Oh.
Just libtards in disguise. But anyways, the fundamental problem with libertarianism is that it treats human beings like interchangeable economic units, rather than spiritual beings with a culture and a history and a nature that requires order. So I'm pretty much going to be attacking libertarianism, and I fully expect to get some heat for this, but it is what it is. So
yes, we know the famous commies in disguise. You know, Rothbard, Hop, Mises, Hayek, all those guys, all absolute libtards.
I mean, to be fair, one could make the argument that Rothbard maybe to some degree was, considering his early involvement with the anarchist left and his closeness with it during the 60s. Now, that being said, I think one could say that's irrelevant based off of the fact that he was just attempting to make an alliance with them because they had similar views on the Vietnam War, and that was kind of it. So maybe maybe one could argue that's not really good reason, but whatever. I'm not going to criticize. Yeah.
Going into his second point, what he's doing here, guys, is he's just trying to poison the well for people that don't know what libertarianism is, so that they can just think it's whatever he says it is. Basically, libertarianism is not an economic philosophy. It is a solution to law in a decentralized.
That's true. I will be fair to Jimmy, though. A lot of the criticisms he gives, I've personally met other people who've claimed they are libertarian, and they know nothing about libertarian philosophy. They've read no Hoppe, no Rothbard, no Rockwell, no Ron Paul at all. They supported Joe Jorgensen. They don't like Dave Smith. They voted for Joe Biden, and they claim they're libertarian. And they really set a bad example for the community, because they end up getting right-wingers into this whole idea that that's what what a libertarian is, but it's not. So personally, I to be fair to Jimmy, I've met people who've professed themselves libertarians who have not read a single sentence of libertarian philosophy, and would actually, if confronted with libertarian philosophy, would say it's racist or something because they don't agree with it. And I do think the people that Jimmy is describing here do exist. They're literally just leftists in disguise. Hoppian libertarians, Mentis wave libertarians, Libertas idea libertarians are not the same as those libertarians I just previously described.
It happens to pair extremely well with Austrian economics, and I'd say most libertarians follow Austrian economics.
And what I mean by that is some of them a common thing libertarians love saying is I'm socially liberal but fiscally conservative. That's what I'm getting at. Is there's a lot of those libertarians that exist, the ones who aren't real, kind of, and people should just be aware of that and just understand that, because if you don't, you're going to continuously fall into the impression that they're real libertarians. They're not. They're just fakes who are on it for the fun of saying taxation is theft. They don't even say that. They don't even say taxation is theft. And by the way, if you criticize Social Security to them, they'll say you hate their grandma then. So they're not even libertarian. They just masquerade as it because it's convenient for them. And it gives them a superiority complex because then they're like, well, I'm beyond left or right. I'm socially liberal, but fiscally conservative. It's like, dude, number one, you're gay. Number two, you're weird. Number three, no one cares. Anyway, let's get back to the video.
And agree with Austrian economics, but it's not a mutually exclusive thing until we push it to its logical conclusions. But at its base, libertarianism is
I don't know what he meant by that. I'm a bit confused by that sentence, but okay. Like, did he mean Austrian economics and libertarianism are incompatible when brought to their logical conclusions? I don't think they are, but I don't know. I might be wrong when I said that. I don't know. Let's just continue watching. We got to get this going. I'm only 3 minutes in, and I've already probably talked like 10.
Or a solution to law and non-aggression and voluntarism as apart from an economic philosophy. I can't believe I actually just missed that. He was trying to slip in there this little spiritual beings there, implying libertarians aren't Christian. Well, I'm not the most devout Christian myself. I happen to know a lot of people. In fact,
yeah, Dad? No, I was recording an episode where I listened to react to another guy's episode, but yeah, who were you?
How long have you done?
Probably not that long. Yeah, no, it's probably not that long, yeah.
Okay, so we should probably go for a bit of a drive.
Yeah.
So you're thinking like 20 minutes or so?
Yeah, less than that probably.
most libertarians I know
exactly half your...
Yep.
are extremely Christian, and not just like some Protestant evangelicals. No, they're Orthodox and Catholics. So to say that libertarians don't take in spirituality is a completely ridiculous statement. There are obviously a lot of atheist libertarians, but I wouldn't even say it's the majority.
I think that libertarians, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them operate on this childish notion that liberty is the only value that matters. But I'm going to be totally honest with you. Letting people do whatever they want is not civilization. It's really stupid. Liberty without morality is just degeneracy. And that is the key facet that libertarians fail to grasp.
Did you learn about libertarianism and anarchy from the public school system? Evidently you did, because apparently your idea of libertarianism is no rules at all, guys, and people are running around, shit's on fire, people are shooting at each other all the time. That's not libertarianism. Libertarianism has, I'd say, just as many rules as normal things, as any other political system, rather, except it's decentralized and it's just all condensed into micronations operating under the NAP, and you can choose what rules, except for the NAP, that you wish to live under. I don't understand how somebody can go and make a 22-minute long video about libertarianism and how it sucks while doing absolutely zero research before making the video. You don't even have to like read Hop or anything. All you could have done is literally watch like 3 Mentis Wave videos, and you'd be way more prepared for this video than you are now. You're also operating under this false notion that you need...
Yeah, shout out to Mentis Wave, link in the description below to his YouTube channel. Awesome bass guy. He has a Rumble, Odyssey, and YouTube pages. YouTube Libertarian and Cap Philosopher guy on YouTube. Explains complicated stuff very well. He's not just an economics guy like most libertarians are. He also does a lot of like cultural stuff, so that's cool.
Religion in order for there to be morality.
When this country started, we had immense freedom. We had so much. We had liberty.
I'm going to say, I think the argument Jimmy was saying was, I believe, subscribing to the majority of Americans who at that time were of European heritage and were not in slavery. But obviously... that is true. I guess blacks were slaves, so they were not experts. But I think that's kind of irrelevant to what Jimmy was talking about, because I think he was more specifically referencing the people actually involved in the creation of this country, which would be the European settlers.
At the same time, 99% of the population was Christian. The cultural baseline was a shared European heritage with a shared moral framework. The founding fathers didn't create a government for a chaotic, atomized mob of atheistic consumers. Like, get excited for the next product so I can consume. John Adams also said this very plainly. Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other.
Holy fucking shit. John Adams himself said it. Well, it's got to be true, guys. I mean, John Adams could never be wrong. Such a lazy appeal to
I don't
authority.
think that. I don't know if that was appeal to authority. I think to some degree it was, but I don't think it was fully appeal to authority. I think Jimmy was just showing that to demonstrate that the early founding fathers, by the way, created the Constitution, created this country, considered it to be a Christian country, which would make, and it's important to keep that in mind, not just because John Adams was important, but also because he was one who helped write the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. So, bit of an appeal to authority. But, when it comes to appeal to authority, you have to take it into account, and you have to take in some credibility and take into the argument. And you just have to realize that, okay, Adams would, that makes sense.
Again, libertarianism isn't anti-Christian. I don't understand why he thinks this.
Hey, come on. He said it himself.
Oh shit, he said it himself? Well, it's gotta be true then.
But libertarians read the Constitution like it's a suicide pact. They ignore the moral and religious parts and just focus on the freedom
That's
parts.
crazy.
But you cannot have one without the other.
Again, libertarians aren't constitutionalists. I don't understand why he thinks this. Liberty means
Because
constitution.
of Ron Paul.
No, not at all.
Okay.
You can have moral frameworks that aren't based in religion. It's more about having a high trust society than a highly religious society.
If you give absolute freedom to a population that has no moral compass, you do not get a free society. You get an insane jungle. You get chaos, and eventually people will beg for a tyrant just to restore some semblance of order. You can disagree all you want, but that's just a fact. Take the drug issue. All right, let's talk about the libertarians' POV on drugs. This is where the libertarian brain rot is the most obvious, because they want to decriminalize everything. And I'm not talking about marijuana, weed, there's an argument to be made there. I'm not even totally against weed. I don't like it personally, but there's an argument to be made for a legitimate medical use, purpose. I don't like when people use it recreationally either, but let's be totally honest, it's not as damaging as crack, okay? But it's stuff like meth and fentanyl and heroin. The libertarian argument is always, well, it's their body, buddy. It's their choice. If they die, it's just a Darwin Award. And that is an absolutely retarded way to run a society.
Okay, technically no, actually, because if you were to follow the eugenics argument, it actually makes a lot of sense, because the people who are more willing to get onto drugs are most likely, and they can't handle and they die because of it, are most likely more low IQ, have lower time preferences, or higher time preferences, or have bigger issues. In which case, and there might be more lazy, in which case it would benefit society if their genes are out of the gene pool. That's the eugenic argument, basically. Now, I'm not going to argue that because that's a bit harsh, but just saying, it is an argument out there, and, Let
me ask you this. What is the purpose of the state? What is the purpose of a government if it cannot do something as simple as keeping poison out of the hands of its own citizens?
So I would actually say to you, is poison not an armament?
He's
the Second Amendment
there.
The right to keep and bear arms, and poison's not an armament?
He's deflecting there. That's completely irrelevant to the conversation. Is poison an armament? No, that's not irrelevant, but okay. Also, I think Jimmy was referencing usage of drugs for recreational use, not for medical or for armament or weapons use. So that's kind of irrelevant to the answer, but I mean, okay, whatever. I'm kind of disappointed by Libertas a bit. He's doing a lot of low-hanging arguments that kind of suck, but whatever. That's cool.
Somehow, what is the definition of an armament? We could go into that. But poison, as you say it, it has many beneficial medical uses. Fentanyl, you just mentioned, has legitimate medical uses, but even then,
again, this is completely irrelevant to what Jimmy was arguing, because he was arguing recreational, not medical usage of hard drugs like fentanyl and meth.
A society who's not depressed and poor, they're going to be a lot more likely not to do hard drugs. And even then, your covenant, your private city, can ban the drugs. Drugs are also a moral question regarding the nap. At what point does it become aggression to be doing drugs? Does it become aggression when it starts to affect my children negatively because I'm not working? I would say, yeah, but other libertarians would have other opinions on that. Meth, you also just mentioned meth. Meth has legitimate medical uses too. Meth is used to treat ADD. The medical name for it is called disoxin. Also, since when did laws prevent people from getting fucking drugs? If you wanted to, I'm sure you could find fentanyl right now within the next 30 minutes if you just walk outside and find some geeker on the corner. Not to mention the crack epidemic was literally caused by Ronald Reagan and the government.
We are not isolated atoms floating in a void. That is not what humans are. We are a community. A junkie, for example, shooting up in a park is not just exercising his liberty or something. He is a blight on the neighborhood. He is a danger to children.
Yes, he's a blight on the neighborhood. Yes, he's a danger to children. Kick him out. Like, what are you talking about? Have you done zero research on libertarian thinking at all? Are you that lazy that you didn't do a single bit of research? You didn't watch one video. You didn't read one book before making your video. Physical removal is a massive thing in libertarian spaces, mostly Hoppian spaces, but in a lot of other libertarian spaces as well.
He is a drain on the resources of the productive citizens.
Jimmy, do you want to know why he's a drain on everybody else? Say it. It's one word. Say it with me now. Welfare. Welfare. A government fucking program funded through fucking taxation. Libertarians, I know this is going to shock you. I know you said it at the beginning of your video, but it's still going to shock you. Libertarians hate taxes. Minarchists, at the very least, want extremely minimal taxation. And anarchists, which are most libertarians, want absolutely zero.
Now, I'm not calling for a return to the 1990s style war on drugs or what have you. But it is basic common sense. It's logic 101, actually, that you keep drugs made in some guy's bathtub or a sketchy lab in China or Mexico illegal.
All the more reason they should be legalized so that people are getting the actual pure forms of the drugs that they want.
You use the law as a deterrent. You don't just shrug your shoulders and say, no, live and let live, Darwin Award, because the inevitable result of the libertarian policy isn't just people doing what they want. It's state-subsidized suicide.
Did you just use libertarian and state-subsidized in the same sentence? Are you not hearing yourself right now?
So look at what happens when these policies get enacted that they are so in support of. You don't get a free market of drugs if you were to just legalize everything. What they want is something called safe injection sites. I argued with this guy before. I think it was on Discord. This was years ago. I wasn't even doing YouTube. I don't even really remember who he was or what it was. I just remember this conversation. But anyways, he said we need to have safe injection sites. He wanted everyone, like the taxpayer, to pay for basically overdose facilities.
So a guy that's supposedly a libertarian wanted more taxpayer-funded government programs. Are you hearing yourself right now, dude? Some dude that I talked to 8 years ago in a Discord call, don't remember his name, don't even remember his ideology. He said Christians want to molest children. Guys, he said it. It must be true. He said he was a Christian, guys. Didn't you literally say at the beginning of your video that libertarians think taxation is theft? So by that logic, any libertarian who supports this would be violating the NAP because they'd be in favor of theft. Like, what are you talking about?
I've had libertarians seriously argue that this is a good solution. It's places where junkies can go, shoot up safely, and if they overdose, a medical professional paid for by your tax dollars hits them with Narcan so they can wake up and do it again tomorrow.
They're in like San Francisco.
Do people seriously think that's a good idea to have in a neighborhood near a school? You know, you think free junkie centers are the hallmark of a high trust society? No, absolutely not. People are not incentivized to get clean when you give them a padded room to do drugs and just destroy themselves. That is not liberty. That is just the state aiding and abetting the destruction of its own people. That's absolutely fucking insane to me. Now, libertarian economics. Let's move on to that. Libertarians worship the free market like it's a god.
You are a nationalist. You worship America like it's a god.
In a vacuum, sure. I'll give them that. The idea sounds nice. In a small and demographically stable, high-trust country, a free market is great, actually. But we don't live in that. We don't live in a perfect textbook. We live in modern America. A totally free market in a country like this never works out the way that they promise it would. Basically, it always ends in one of two ways. Either the government and the corporations collude together through backroom deals and lobbying to crush the little guy, like small family businesses in Main Street, and it ends up being all about Wall Street instead, or the market gets so insane that one massive monopoly ends up running the whole entire country anyways.
Jimmy, monopolies are caused by the government, and libertarians don't want a centralized government. Do you not understand this? Monopolies are caused by corporations lobbying for more regulation to crush out the little guy. It seems you understand this. So in this framework of a libertarian society who wants no centralized government and only wants micronations and private cities, how is this going to happen? I agree. The free market cannot exist in modern America because modern America is ran by a bureaucratic democracy. This democracy, which is incentivized to keep people on welfare and to keep people hooked on drugs so that they have to rely on this said government and they can manipulate their voter base.
So the fact of the matter is we need regulations, not the shitty excessive red tape that we have now. Of course, there's an argument to be made there. There's nuance to everything, right?
Okay, so what's your plan to prevent governments from doing what they've done throughout all of human history and overreaching past that? You're a constitutionalist, but even you can agree that the Constitution hasn't stopped them from infringing on the rights of the people. So your response to this, which I'm assuming would be to propose regulation that prevents them from doing that, doesn't make any sense because they can just go and change the laws to fit whatever they need it to fit so that these corporations can become monopolies. Even if somehow you magically get rid of legal lobbying, illegal backroom bribes are still going to happen because even though there is legal lobbying now, there definitely are illegal backroom bribes that go on. I find it very ironic that you call the libertarian vision idealistic and utopian. However, your entire philosophy revolves around the fact of if everybody just this, if everybody was just Christian and went by Christian values, we would be absolutely perfect, guys. And yeah, if everybody could go by standard Christian values of the 10 Commandments, life would be absolutely amazing. But guess what, Jimmy? That's not how the world works. You use the same exact logic that leftists use, but instead of equity, you replace it with Christianity. You completely ignore praxeology and incentive structures in the same exact way leftists do. You have this idea that people can just be changed and that people can just be changed into being Christians, and then the world will be absolutely perfect if we just force everybody to be Christian. I don't want to misrepresent him. I said something that made it kind of sound like he thought everybody can just magically become Christian. No, he doesn't think that, of course. He's not that stupid. But he does want to use the government to force people to become Christians, which is no different than leftists wanting to use the government. I don't
think that was the argument. I think the argument was he wants a nation with like Christian morality is more ingrained in our law, and we admit, like our own government, we admits that we are under God, and we already do that, but like adds a more Christian element to it. I think that was what Jimmy was talking about, but whatever.
To force equity on everybody.
But regulations to prevent slave labor factories from undercutting American workers and importing H-1Bs and to prevent distinct moral hazards is kind of needed, you know. But
it's going to shock you. Slavery violates the non-aggression principle. I know that's shocking. And H-1Bs are a government-caused problem. Anyway, with that being said, guys, this video is getting extremely long. I'm going to do the full video, but it's going to be broken into two parts just so that it's more easily digestible. So if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all those good things, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.
All right. Well, yeah, that was that. Thought it was a good video. Watch the second part. Yeah. Tell me in the comments as usual. Click that subscribe button. Click that like button. Ring the notification bell. Tell me in the comment section below what you think of it, because I thought it was decent. I thought both sides made some bad arguments. I think both sides made some good arguments. I think there was some straw manning by Libertas on Jimmy, and I think Jimmy was definitely straw manning quite a bit. But yeah, awesome. All right, well, the next episode I'll definitely make a review on. I don't know, this was just a good episode, and I liked it. A good video. So yeah, all right. Well, this is the American Experience, broadcasting live out of the greatest country on God's green earth. Till next time, stay safe, stay free, and have a good one, folks.